Okay, it's the end of the session. Nala just is behind the camera. She just started it up. She doesn't want to be on camera. This is Nala's roadmap to success. Now, I'm going to kind of chronologically go through what we went through. I met Nala yesterday. She came to my place in Santa Monica, and we did a lot of sniffing, and I gave her some treats, but I really gave her space. If you are a guest that's watching this and you want to interact with Nala, when you come to visit, the best thing that you can do is completely ignore Nala. If Nala walks up to you, do not pet her. Don't say good girl. Don't move. Try to just hold still. We often think that petting is the best way to make a friend with a dog, but if you have a fearful dog, being passive, letting them explore you, because when she comes up to you, that takes a lot of bravery from her. And you could fart and it probably send her across the room. So instead, if she comes over to sniff, just hold still, let her get her sniffing in, walk away. Now, and wait for her to walk away. Now, the guardians might give you some treats. And if you're giving her treats, you can throw the treats. Now, when I'm around a dog that's fearful like Nala, I try to move in a very fluid motion as if I'm underwater. I'm going to stand up. I'm doing it very progressively. So try to avoid herky-jerky movements and try to avoid having people come over who have a cold or allergies. Sneezing and coughing are very sudden, loud spikes. And that can send her off. Look at her, she's so cute, sleeping on her, put her chin on her paw. She's such a cutie. So as a guest, what we really want to do is set her up for success. So we can exercise her a little bit, little being the operative word. We want the Goldilocks amount of exercise. So maybe fetch 5 times, give her 10 minutes to rest. When you have guests come over, if you can, I would try to recreate what I showed you outside. So putting the treat trail of those treats and just maybe have the guest have a little container out and have them, and when you're a guest, putting them out right outside the door and about every foot. There's another one, make it a straight line so the dog can identify a pattern. Sit on the steps with your back towards the door. When she comes up and sniffs you, just try to ignore, try not to move. A lot of times I'll hold my camera with the face black so I can look in the reflection and see where the dog is without really moving too much. And then basically if she only takes a couple of treats like she did for me, reproduce those treats, and you guys might be able to do that. And you should see her coming closer and closer to him and a lingering. Now when I want to give a treat to a fearful dog, I'm going to put a treat in the palm of my hand. I'm going to hold my hand out to the side at nose level or slightly lower. When the dog licks it up off my hand, I leave my hand there. A lot of times dogs are like, did I miss something? Come back and lick it again. She's got an extra exposure to me. Petting her is not what she wants. So if you want to make friends with her, do what she wants and just be passive and don't try to pet her. She would appreciate it more than if you try to pet her. And then pull out another treat. Now I will sometimes ask a dog to sit as a test to see if she's comfortable enough to sit. Probably would only ask that maybe once or twice. If she doesn't want to sit, that's fine. And then basically, when she comes all the way to the person, try to get them to hold the treat out and take it off their hand. Would be nice if we can get to that point before they come in the house. This might be a sort of situation you might have to have somebody come by 1 or 2 times, just sit outside and not even come in the house. So remember, one of the themes we talked about throughout the session is breaking things down into small steps. And instead of 1 step, we make it into 4 steps, 8 steps, 12 steps. We practice step number 1 over and over in an easy environment till the dog's comfortable with step 1. Only then do we do step 1 followed by step 2. And we gradually link them all together. So having somebody meet outside once or twice without coming in your house sets it up, just like her meeting me at my place in Santa Monica made it a lot more comfortable for her here today. If you're a guest that comes inside, I would give the guest a handful of those treats and probably feed her a little bit lighter that day. It's not ethical with whole food, but a little bit of a lighter lunch. And then basically you throw the treats between you and her to try to get you to approach, but your goal is not to get her to come here. Your goal is for her to look at you or approach you slightly and have something positive happen and nothing negative happening, and you moving, talking to her or trying to pet her would be perceived as negative to a fearful dog. So don't do that. If you're throwing treats on the ground, every third to fifth treat, throw it behind her so she has to move further away from you. That gives her a chance to decompress a little bit. It takes a lot of bravery for a fearful dog to approach somebody. So don't expect she's going to come up, and if she finally comes up all the way to you, I might leave a treat here, see if she'll take it. She took one off my shoe yesterday. That's not a goal, but that might be not a bad thing to get to. But again, I didn't touch her once yesterday. I haven't touched her once today. I gave her a couple treats. Because of that, she feels a lot more comfortable. Her body mechanics tell me she's much more relaxed. Now, so that's if you're a guest coming over, and if the guest is going to get up and go to the bathroom, and she's asleep like she is now, somebody should cough. Make sure that she understands it. I would ideally have the guardian sitting right next to her have a treat. So I stand up, she gets a treat. I take a step over the ottoman, she gets a treat. I take another step, gets a treat. And once I'm kind of moving away, which is what she wants, the treat should stop. But when I stand up, I become more authoritative. When I move around, I might be coming closer to her. So the guest wants to move up, stand up, stop. You give her a treat, then I do my next step, and I stop. You give her another treat. So we make it very calculated and very easy for her to see what's going on. We're putting all our cards on the table so she's not caught off guard. If she's asleep and I stand up and start walking around, that's going to probably cause her to get really upset, and you're going to lose a lot of the progress that you made. Go slow and steady now so you can go fast later. And then when the person's coming back, I would maybe pop a treat in her mouth right before the person appears. So I'm chewing on a treat as I still watch the person, and comes and sits back down. Also, it'd be ideal if when the person does come in your house, you keep it a very short visit, maybe 15, 20 minutes tops. I know that's not very convenient, but maybe you have somebody come over to meet you for dinner. They help you practice on the stairs, and if they can't come in, go out to dinner. She stays here. And then you do it again, and maybe this time you're able to come in and have a cocktail, and then you go out to dinner. So we're immersing her into it very slowly and not overwhelming her. Now, the guardians would be nice if you can get her used to licking a lick mat. I would try cream cheese. You can also try frozen yogurt. The treats that I was using is Stewart's freeze-dried beef liver. They come in a teal and white container that you can order on Amazon for about $30. Now, it's really, really, really rich, so you should cut them up into little pieces that are smaller than a pea, and use a serrated edge knife. The dust, keep the dust. You might need to put that on peanut butter or the cream cheese on top of the lick mat. A lot of lick mats have suction cups. Get one with a suction cup. Get her used to it, having it, probably put it right next to the carpet. She probably would prefer to lay on the carpet when she's licking that. And get her used to licking that a couple times before you use it with a person coming over. Then now when people come over, when they finally come in, she's maybe licking it over there. The person is sitting here. She's licking it. And then before she gets done licking, the person leaves. So we're pairing the positive vibration, the release in oxytocin and serotonin that happens when dogs lick, with the presence of the scary person who's not trying to pet her. So we're adding a whole bunch of different angles to help her feel comfortable. Now, one of the things I'd like the guardians to do is start preparing or creating positivity for her to leave the place. I was jokingly saying she's agoraphobic. She's not agoraphobic. She is fearful of being outside probably because of so much cortisol she has in her blood and some negative experiences. So she doesn't like being outside because it's associated with those things. But she does like being outside, like at the parents' home and other places where she feels secure. What we want to do is we go very progressively. So I would do the treat trail. When there's nobody there, there's no construction, your neighbors are not next door, just leave it and get her to the point where she go all the way to the end of the steps, getting those treats. And again, they're about every foot apart. Then I start putting one on every step going down the steps, and maybe a small pile at the end of the steps. So now she comes up the edge of the steps, she sees one, oh, there's one right down there. You get that one, and you get to see how brave she is, how comfortable she is to go. And she doesn't have to get the whole thing. And if she only goes halfway down the stairs and runs back inside, recreate the treat trail. Now I gradually, in an area where the dog's comfortable, I start increasing the distance from a foot to a foot and a half to about 2 feet, eventually about 3 feet apart. But make sure there's straight lines so dogs can identify a behavior pattern. But your goal is eventually she goes all the way down the steps to the landing over there. Then dotted treat trail, and then on the steps. You want to basically do this all the way to get her outside. And she's choosing to go to these spots. We're not forcing her or pulling her. And she stops and she gives us a classic indicator of how comfortable she was, how far she's comfortable going. And there might be some days she doesn't want to go as far as she did the day before. Remember, dog training is not a linear process. That's totally fine. Eventually, you have the treat trail winding towards your car is, and eventually getting in the car. Now, she's not a big fan of getting in the car. So I would get her in the car, give her like a lick mat in the car, get in the car, close the door, listen to some nice music that you guys have going on. Don't start the car. Just get her used to being in the car without the car going anywhere. We're building positive associations. Eventually, I would put her in the car, close the door, and then maybe I start the car, let it idle, and give her a couple treats while it's idling, or let her eat her some food or a lick mat or whatever. Then we stop the car, get her out, and anytime she scratches the door, she wants to get out, we let her. We stop anytime she wants to, so she feels empowered. And eventually you get to the point where you put the car in drive. And then it kind of moves a little bit, unless you have a really good transmission, you can't feel it, then you might move it forward just a little bit, but you want to get her gradually used to the car moving forward very gently, and only for a foot or two, and then we very slowly stop, put it back in park, she gets a treat. So all these things are what we call precedents. So she gets a treat after each one of these things. So she starts to look at it being comfortable. And it might be we have to just get in the car, close the door, and just sit there for a minute, and might have to do that 5 separate occasions before we can go to the next step where I go and get in the car myself. It's okay. So sometimes it helps to have a little security camera, or security cameras are pretty cheap nowadays. You can get them like 20 bucks, or you can watch it on your phone. Because when you close the door, you might not see what she's doing. If she sits and lays down, that could be an indication she's comfortable. If she's panting, the body mechanics we talked to about her being uncomfortable, then maybe I just, instead of closing the door, it's an SUV. Maybe I have her get in there, and I grab the SUV trunk, and I close it this much, put it back up, and she gets a treat. And I close it a little bit more, give her a treat. I usually, when I'm doing that, I maybe pull it down 3 inches, put it back, give her a treat, and I repeat that 3 inches 3 to 5 times until she seems pretty relaxed. Then I'm closing a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. The closing of the door, there's a sound for that. You do what I showed you in the video above. Record that sound of that door closing. Put your phone in the car. So it's the same sound that she hears when she's in the car and she hears that door close. Now she hears that sound and you give her a treat. Hears that sound and she hears it here in her living room where she feels very secure and confident. Now that door closed, she's turning around like, which one of you is going to give me a treat? Positive. Eventually you put the car in drive, and then try to do this, and when it's not a busy day, let your car idle up to speed and slow braking and no fast turns. Try to get to the point where you just go down the block and back around and very slow. This pulpit is pretty busy, so try to avoid that. Maybe you do a turnaround or whatever it is, but the idea is just to gradually lengthen the trip, and after the end, she gets a treat at each time so she feels comfortable. Now be careful, if she gets motion sickness, has too much food in her system, she can throw up. We want to try to avoid that. But if we go slow and steady, and again, all the exercise I talked about today, a common mistake people make is they move too fast because the dog appears to be calm. Remember, there's a lot of stuff going internally under the surface. So slow and steady, don't take your progress for granted. Gradually build on it. And if you have an off day, you have to go a little bit less, that's fine. Just make sure you all keep them short, successful, and you always end on a positive repetition. That way she wants to do it again. And if you can, especially if it's really hard, when you come back in your apartment, do something she really likes. Chase her around Frankenstein Lee's, or play fetch, or give her a lick mat, or whatever it is. So she does a little work and then she gets a nice dessert afterwards. Let me see. For sounds outside, you can also do something I call click for looks, which is going to be in the video directly below this one on my website, working with, I can't remember the dog's name from this morning, but there's a big dog that I was working with this morning that looks kind of like, it's a pit, but it looks like a Great Dane. But basically what I was doing is call it click for look. So the dog looked at somebody outside the fence, we said yes or clicked, and the dog looked away and got a treat. So there's something like a balloon, or you mentioned the balloon or the wavy thing outside. Find a distance far enough away where she'll sit or where she'll take a treat. Every time, and if it's right here, I'm just kind of hanging out. Yes, treat. Yes, treat. Now she'll stumble into looking at it a couple times, but after a while she'll look at it and look back at you. This is called the engage-disengage game. So what are we doing? We're creating. I often just look at that stupid thing and I get a treat. And I'm sitting. Now again, don't only ask her to sit once. If she won't sit, move 5 feet away. I use the sit and taking the treat as those tests. But find that distance, get as close as you can, but not so close as debilitating for her. And then every time she looks at it, she gets a treat. And then if you have to walk past it, that might be too much. So maybe we walk in the street around it, do a little bit, keep the same distance. My mom and dad are keeping me away from whatever it is I'm scared of, so I can trust them. I can lower my guard. I can feel content and complete and secure when I'm with them, because they're not going to, because we're just doopsie-doo. We're just walk right by that balloon. We're like, balloon, big deal. It's scaring the heck out of me. So if we're mindful and we guide around those things, gradually we should be able to get closer and closer if we use the desensitization counter conditioning technique in the video above. But remember, always go at your dog's pace. Don't let her erupt or fail. That means we get greedy and ask for too much criteria. When your dog is erupting, they are hysterical. I don't know about you, but when I'm hysterical, I can't balance my books. I can't learn anything. I have to be, this hysteria has to end. So if she gets reactive, just increase the distance and move it away. All right, we started off the session internally about going over marker words. The Guardian's already done that. If you're going to use a clicker for that stuff, you should load the clicker. Put the clicker behind your back, click, give her a treat. If that startles her, have somebody across the room clicking. A lot of people hold the clicker right here. It startles the dog and becomes a negative stimulus. So eventually when it gets to the point where you can click and then you get a treat afterwards, she looks at the treat as a positive. I prefer using a clicker versus the marker word because the clicker works better, especially outdoor. It's much more distinctive of a sound. This is a clicking sound, very distinct. So her ears came up, she didn't do anything negative, so she's okay with it. When you're using a clicker, also don't click like this. Make sure it's like really concise, or however you do it is fine, just be consistent. But a clicker, if you want, I'll leave you a clicker and you can use that. That's what I would do for the balloon or the dancing man or whatever the things are that are outside. But remember, increase the distance, slow down the speed, lower the volume. And if it's outside, you're probably going to be regulating things by increasing the distance away until she feels comfortable, but gradually you're going to decrease that distance. Okay, so we went over hand targeting. I'll probably have a link to it above. Remember, when you're doing it, touch comes first. Remember the 4 components: cue, action, marker word or marker, and then reward. But when we're teaching, we do the first step, the cue, last. Yes. We don't say the cue unless we're 90% certain. When I say sit, the dog's going to sit. The more you say it, the less you mean it. So if you find yourself repeating a cue a lot, that's probably an indication you need to go back to practicing. And practicing should be done in the classroom, the safe, secure environment, which is your home. But practice in a lot of variety in your home, here, there, and so on. And then eventually you can do it outside. And some dogs have difficulty, they lose their nerve outside. So sometimes I'll ebb and flow like an ocean wave. So I'm sit, click, treat. Step, sit, click, treat. Step, click, treat. Open the door, sit, click, treat. Step outside the door, sit, click, treat. Sometimes when you get past the threshold, I'm not going to listen to you anymore, I'm fearful. So then I move right back in the door. Sit, click, treat. Then I go right back to the door. Sit, click, treat. And gradually we ebb further and further outside the door. But if you get to the point where she can't sit, won't take a treat, you're at her breaking point. If you move past it, it's going to be debilitating. So whenever possible, try to go back. I think getting in the car and driving her somewhere to a park that's an open area is going to be better. I know it's inconvenient for you guys, awesome for you guys to do that, but we want to set her up. Remember, we don't want her to practice the unwanted behaviors by being fearful. Let me see, what else did we go over? We went over, yesterday, we went over dog body language and cutoff signals. We went over cutoff signals yesterday, we went over dog body language today. Watch the neutral. Text me if you can't remember all the individual elements, but you're looking at the head, the ears, the eyes, the mouth being open and closed. Going from a close to an open and closed mouth is a big cutoff signal. Ducking the head, turning away, refusing to come to you, refusing to look at you, rolling over on her belly. Please don't do that thing. We do it anyways. No, she rolls on her belly like when we're in the middle of doing something she doesn't want to do. Respect that. Don't do it. And then she's okay. You're not forcing me to do things I don't want. For the body language, remember, look at her tail. How does she wag her tail when she's happy? How does she wag her tail then, once we know what it looks like when it's happy, how does her tail move when she's uncomfortable? Maybe it's hanging down, covering her anus. Well, now when we see those signals, remember, our job is to watch our dog and read our dog's body language and cut off signals and then increase the distance between her and anything she's fearful of when she's giving the first indication. When she's barking and lunging, that's like the 23rd indication. She's been warning a while, nobody's listening. So the more of a student that you can be of your dog's body language, the better equipped you're going to be able to get her out of a situation where she feels uncomfortable. So look for her body mechanics when she's neutral first, leaning towards away, breathing, tension in the body, and all that fun stuff, how the ears are up. And then when one of you comes home, how do those things change when she's happy? We know she's elated. We know she's in a good mood. We see the differences. Then when we're on walks, we didn't see from neutral, we didn't see from happy, probably is an indication she's uncomfortable. So we recognize her ears go back. Okay, well, I'm going to move her away from that car, that lawnmower, that leaf blower. Gardening stuff is really hard for a lot of dogs in general. So loud noises also, and also when you're doing stuff, we don't think about it, but if you're walking down the street and there's a baby crying, somebody is yelling, and there's a car being towed, and then there's traffic, and there's a helicopter above, we filter all that stuff out. That's like 5 or 6 things for her. We call it trigger stacking when a whole lot of stimulus comes that works against the dog. So if you're trying to get her to look at the balloon or whatever, and there's a baby crying, do it another day. She's already fearful. That's hard enough to deal with. Let's not add too many things to her plate. Eventually, we'd love to add all those things together, gradually work up to that. But right now, we're going to do them one at a time and set her up for success. Stop recording?
No, it's zoomed in.
Oh, did it?
When did it do that?
I don't know.
Maybe it's probably my watch. All right, that's right. You don't want to be zoomed in on me. I don't look good in high def. All right, so what else did we go over? We went over celebrating and manners. So remember, celebrating is her, anytime she does anything that's desirable, we're going to say yes and pat her under her chin. Or on her chest. I can't remember where she likes. She likes on the chest. Okay. And so she comes, she sits, she lies down, she drops something, drinks water. She goes to her dog bed. She stretches. Anything that she does on her own, mark and reward. When you can predict that she's about to do a stretch, then you say stretch, she stretches, you say yes, and you pet her. And after a while, you say stretch, and she'll stretch to get the pet. Now, when you're petting her, remember, we don't want to pet her on top of her head to start. But if I'm petting her here, I can work my way up to her head. As long as she doesn't give me cutoff signals, that's okay. We just don't want to start going over her head. And there should be a video above on dog cutoff signals. But if you're forgetting those, let me know. But kind of learn to be a student of your dog's body language. All right, so celebrating is when she chooses to do things that you like. We're going to recognize and reward them when she chooses to do them without any influence from us. Asking her to sit and petting a reward, that's great too. But we want to be mindful of it. And so tell each other celebrate if your partner forgets to pet her when she walks up to you or sits or lays down. And after a while, if she walks up to me, I say yes, pet her on her chin, and continue my conversation. It didn't even stop my conversation. I talk a lot. But again, that's the whole point, is we want her to be like, I sit, I lay down, I do all these things. I feel secure and confident because I know what my humans like, because they say the mark word and they give me attention. And I'm going to start sitting to ask for attention, laying down, dropping things, because that's stuff that you seem to like. The flip side of that is the manners lesson. So if she's kind of nudging you or pawing for attention, try to ask her to sit or lay down. Ask her to sit once. If she doesn't sit, then go back to designing the most brilliant advertisement you've ever seen, or whatever it is. And so after a while, she recognizes, remember, half of how dogs learn is not doing the thing you want and then not being rewarded for it. So don't be nice and give her a treat when she doesn't do it. That's confusing for her. If you tell her sit, she doesn't sit, and you go back to work, that makes her more motivated to sit the next time you ask her to do it, because she didn't get what she wanted this time. After a while, she'll start sitting to prepay for the attention. When she does, make sure you pet and reward her for doing that. If she's nudging you multiple times, she's probably saying, I'm a little bit bored. Take me outside. Let's go for a walk. Well, probably not go outside to go for a walk, but she probably wants to do something to burn some energy. Remember, we talked about sniffing on walks, which is great that she does. Playing tug of war, she doesn't do a lot of, but she will play fetch. Remember, I asked the dog to sit every time I sit. Then I throw the ball, and I say fetch as I throw it. When she brings it back, I wait for her to get there, and then hold the treat out. And so you can create a little bit of impulse control in that game. You can also, if you want, you can look for a doggy backpack. There are harnesses that have little bags here. You can put bottles of water or bags of sand in there. She's carrying weight. That makes the walk a little bit more efficient. But for her, she doesn't strike me as a super high energy dog, and she's got enough stuff going on. I think the extra accoutrement for her harness might not be great for her, but try to find her, again, an X or Y-shaped harness instead of a T-shape that's in the front. Try to get one with a front clip that works a little bit. Well, is she a puller?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
The front clip they call it a no pull harness, which is BS. There's no such thing. All it does is when she pulls, it turns her a little bit. If it's back here, my opposition reflex is the strongest. Response, I should say. It's not a reflex. And so if it's right in the back, she's going to probably pull the most. If it's on the side, it'll kind of turn her aside, which kind of slows down the pulling. Also carry a treat with you in your hand all the time. Every time she looks at you, say yes, and hold the treat out, stop. So she has to come back to you to get that treat. If I'm handing out $100 bills, and random people are probably going to follow me around until I stop giving out $100 bills. Treats are $100 bill for dogs. So every time she looks at you, yes, hold the treat out, she comes back to you, gets it, then she starts walking around, pull another one out. So every time that she looks at you, but if she looks at you and go like this, you're going to miss it. She's going to keep on walking. So just reward her for the check-ins. The more she checks in with you, the less she's looking for the scary thing. I also would recommend, if you can, you guys don't like her picking stuff on the street. I like to practice the find it game in grass. So I find a section of grass on every block that I walk, and I do about 3 to 5 find its. So that way, if a dog or some scary thing is coming, I can get her turned and looking the other way, doing the find it, and let the scary thing pass by. But if you get trapped, just move her away. Remember, be mindful when you're walking. It's LA. There's a lot of choke points. If I'm walking, the sidewalk's wide, and then there's a camper and shrubs here, and the sidewalk only has this much of a gap, and there's somebody walking towards us, we don't even think about walking past them, but the dog's like, it's a choke point. So try to let people pass. If there's anything, it's a woman with a stroller, somebody in a wheelchair. Those are detachable items are hard for dogs to deal with. So try to default and let people come around. Let me see. We also talked about mental stimulation. Feeding on a snuffle mat is great, but she eats wet food, so that really won't work very well. But I would maybe put some treats in there. It's a nice thing you can do. Definitely, like I said, get a lick mat and get her using the lick mats. Cookie in the Corner is a scent game. We didn't do it with her because she's tired. She already knows how to find it. But I'd like you to Google scent games for dogs. Find 2 to 4 scent games that you can do in the house. And then I'd also like you to go to Facebook, look for DIY enrichment groups, or just Google it, YouTube channels. Find a bunch of different things. There's that bell pepper with the pureed pumpkin and peanut butter, and then what am I thinking of? Banana at the top, and then freeze it, and then give it to her. It's all edible, but she's got to work a long time. And that boosts confidence, and it is a nice way to drain energy. Training is also a nice way to drain energy. Training sessions should be 2, maximum of 3 minutes long, unless you do something like stay that requires more duration, but you really want to keep it 1 to 2 minutes and end on a positive. So doing a 1 or 2 minute practice session more frequently would be much better than doing 1 10-minute session once a day. So maybe divide and conquer. Pick 1 or 2 exercises that we're going to do, and maybe you do 1 in the morning and you do 2 in the afternoon, and then flip it the next day, or whatever it is. So if you're dividing and conquering, remember, practice facing this way, facing that way, kneeling, standing, sitting down, all over your house. You need a lot of variety for practice. Also, the doggy confetti in the boxes. So remember, make sure the boxes are shorter than her shoulder, so she can actually open them and step in them. She's probably gonna be fearful about them at first. So the first time I would just put the box down, close the lids, and put treats on top of it and around it. Have her approach the box. It's a new thing. She's probably not gonna like it at first. But now I approach it, good things happen. I approach it, more good things happen. And try to do it in the same location, because that same location can create a little bit of security. And eventually then get the doggy paper, like about 3 inches wide by about 8.5 inches long, and get a ream of paper just chopped up, so you can sprinkle it around in like packing, and then grab one piece, put a piece of kibble in it, crumple it once, put another piece of kibble, crumple it. You got about 5 or 6 pieces. Stuff it in, either crumple it up and put it in the box, or stuff it in a paper towel tube. And so when she opens the box, she's got to go through all this paper, find it with the nose, pull it out, and then unwrap it and lick it little piece up, little piece up. And then after she gets good at it, you have a box inside of the box. You have toilet paper tubes inside of those boxes. So she goes in there and she's like spending an hour pulling all this stuff out. Well, I remember we used to put it in the bowl. Now I got to work for my food. Boosts her confidence, give her something to do, drains energy. A lot of beneficial things. And also shredding is a normal, relaxing behavior for dogs. So giving an opportunity to do that inside can be beneficial. Let me see, we also talked about the importance of rules. Did we talk about rules? We talked about Premax, I guess, a little bit. Didn't we talk about Premax? Yeah. So sit before I invite you on the couch. Sit before I put your harness on. Sit before I start making your food. So if I go to the door and I say sit, she doesn't sit, I walk away and I sit down and wait 1 minute. After 1 minute, I go back to the door and tell her sit 1 time. If she sits, open the door, we go out for a walk. So she's got the leash on already. If she doesn't sit, this time I walk away for 2 minutes. Then I walk away and sit down for 4 minutes, 8 minutes. I double the length of time. And you're in your place where it's most convenient. You can play video games, you can get on your computer, watch TV, or read, or whatever it is. If you're outside and you tell her to sit and you gotta wait a minute, you're sitting there waiting for her. But the idea is for her to understand, hey, that's a nice yawn. The idea is for her to understand that I have to do something to earn it from my humans. And some people are like, that's mean, you're making her work for it. She has low confidence and self-esteem because she's fearful. The more things that she learns that other people are in control of can make her feel more secure and confident. I'm not saying military, no discipline in terms of punishment, but discipline in terms of structure, and having her see you guys do things is going to help her feel more comfortable. When you're out and about, if somebody comes up and approaches her, step in front of her if she's uncomfortable. Be a block. The more that she sees that your hand either moving her away or blocking people from getting her, the more comfortable and confident she's going to be. You pair it with the desensitization counter-conditioning, the exercise that we did in the video above. After a while, she's going to feel more and more comfortable about things, because these things that used to scare me are now mean I'm going to get a treat, and my guardians went so slowly and progressively, I never got scared. And so now I look at the knock at the door, the balloon, the vacuum cleaner, whatever it is, as something I'm going to get a treat for instead of something to be fearful about. Let me see, the video above is pretty self-explanatory, but message me if you have any questions on it. And don't be, like Rich said, there is an extinction burst, so don't be afraid of all of a sudden it gets worse when it seemed to be getting better. And remember, dog training is not a linear process, so don't always expect more progress the next day. Sometimes you'll have a step back. Just be consistent, work on it a couple times a day, and every day you'll gradually, on the long haul, you end up making a lot of distance. Let me see, what else? It almost looks like she's going to throw up.
She wants to rearrange.
It's like, David leaves so I can, yeah, she's kind of been in this cuddle position for a long time. All right, I'm trying to think if there's, you guys use Kongs with peanut butter too?
Not peanut butter, we'll jam like
or
some other treats.
Some other treats in there. So you try cream cheese, because a lot of dogs like cream cheese. and make sure she's tolerating it. But again, keep that dust in the Stewart's freezer. I do feel like you can kind of put that stuff in there. But Kong also satiates that licking behavior. It's kind of also an analog for hunting. But she's only made interested if you pack stuff in there. I'm trying to think, is there anything else you want me to go over?
No, that was something new though.
Okay, go.
We go play with this dog named Hank at the church park over there, and we're not sure. We think she doesn't like to play with Hank. He's a little aggressive, and she lays on her belly and
On her back or belly?
No, she's
On her back, belly
on
up.
her back and her belly's up.
That's
and
submissive.
He's still like
Pecking her kind
and
of
stuff.
Okay, so then I would step in.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when we have puppies playing our puppy classes, we don't let them play above 50%. 0's asleep, 10 is as crazy as they get. When they're level 5, I don't care if they're having a good time or not, we give them a treat out. I usually have a treat in both hands. I come up behind the dog and I put my hand on their back thigh and I pull them backwards. The dog turns this way, I flip this hand up, they lick a treat, and I hold the other hand over here further away, and I'm turning away from whatever the thing is. Then I give the dog a bunch of treats because you're interrupting me if I like the playing. Now, if she sees that Hank's playing and when dogs play, they do the same thing they do as they fight. The only difference is they should take turns on their back. If it's only one-sided, that probably is an indication that he's taking advantage and she's not. It's not like he's calculating Machiavellian, but he's just, he wants to get what he gets and she's not enjoying it. In order for socialization to be beneficial, it has to be enjoyable for the dog. So if she is tolerating it from him, and I worry about her because I think she has some learned irrelevance issue, or not learned irrelevance, learned helplessness, which is when a dog has just had such a bad experience. So like, you can torture me, I'm just going to sit here and accept everything. I have no give or take in life. That's not healthy. So if that's the case, then maybe try to walk her with Hank, if you'd like, if you want to try to become friends, create a shared experience where there's a little bit of structure. But she is not have to like every dog that she meets, and most people don't like me. That's okay. But same thing for dogs. And so if there's somebody, and now you know what the cutoff signals are. So ringing over the belly is being submissive. Now it could also mean like you're petting me and I'm like, oh man, this feels good. Why don't you get the underside too? That's different. But if I immediately go into my belly or my back and show my belly, that's being very vulnerable. I'm showing my vulnerable parts. I'm trying to say, please back away, and he's not doing it. You need to intercede. And I would just probably, when Hank comes, I would just say, hey, we met with a behaviorist and he shows some body language. I don't think, I think she likes Hank's company, but I think he might get a little bit rough, and when she rolls over, we'd like to stop the play. Can we have that as a rule? And then we'll both watch our dogs, and then, just pull Hank away, give him a whole bunch of treats, and we'll pull her away. But it might be a situation where she doesn't like that dog. That's okay too. Just tell Hank, hey, she's a little gentle, so we're trying to, I played a little bit, she gets a little roused, try to give them a bone, because what do you mean Hank plays too rough? He's a good dog. They get very personal. So try to make it like, Nala and Hank, try to a little bit of this, a little bit of that, or just, whatever you want to do. But yeah, so if she's giving cutoff signals, licking her lips, trying to run away from him, let her. And again, if she wants to do that, not only let her, reward her for doing it. Good decision. But eventually one day she might go after him, or it might just be helping her practice that learned helplessness, which we don't want her to experience. We want her play with to be positive. And if you can, I don't know how big are her other dogs. I don't know what kind of relationship you have with her dog friends. If you can, have one of them come over here and do a play date, maybe after holidays when you don't have all the extra stuff up. But having her play in the environment she feels comfortable with, a human that she doesn't know, but the dog knows. So the dog comes over and she sees him petting, and that person should not try to pet her or talk to her at all, but she might bump into him. Oh, scary man, you didn't do anything. Okay, I'll go and play with the dog. And then I get more gradual immersion therapy. I'm gradually bumping into this guy and nothing bad is happening. And eventually you could try to offer a treat, but just remember, don't offer the treat like this. Off to the side, your right side or left side, you're much more approachable from the side. Front facing is considered confrontational. Eye contact with somebody you don't know is a challenge. Leaning over a dog is intimidating, and petting a dog on top of the head is dominating. So when you're meeting a dog for the first time, be passive, let them come sniff you. If you do want to pet them, you think it's appropriate, hold your hand up, let them try to sniff it. If they turn their head away, then tell the person, please don't pet her. And if you're out in the street, somebody does that, she turns her head away, and you're like, oh, now I feel bad. Come up with some excuse so she doesn't have to do it. I'll tell you one off camera. I don't want to say it on camera, but that always works. But the more that you manage the situation, the less she has to, and the more confidence she has in you in providing her with a safe, secure environment. Trying to think, is there anything else you want me to go over? Anything else? All right, now if you have other things are going to occur to you after this, even if it's not something we talked about here, message me. I have about 14,000 videos. I'm happy to share one with you if it can help. Watch this video in particular once a week until when you watch this video, there's nothing new in here. And all the stuff that I've referenced should be linked above in the text. If it's not, message me and I can share a video with you on consent or whatever it is. But the idea is watch this once a week until when you watch it, there's nothing new. We've incorporated everything. And if you're still having problems with Nala, then let me know. We can set up a follow-up session and drill down specifically on that. But I think if you watch this every once a week for a month and practice this stuff, I think you knock a bunch of those things out, which in a month you should be able to knock out just about everything on that list. Get a recording. Oh, one last thing. If you're doing a recording, do the recording and get the recording going full blast on your speaker. Then go outside when it's live, but have more distance. So maybe half a block away when she sees the UPS truck and you're getting treats, and now it's the fidelity, it's again, we're leveling up. Eventually you get to the point where she's walking right up to that UPS truck and licking a treat up off of the ground or getting it from the UPS driver or whatever it is, but we're going slowly and at her pace. All right, Nala, come here. She's like, you must be kidding. I'm just joking. Nala's relaxing behind the camera. You guys get to see her in the picture above, but this is Nala's roadmap to success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog, only sometimes you mean it.